There is a major battle that's heating up within the Republican Party down in the United States. It's over gay marriage. This week, dozens of prominent Republicans signed a legal brief in support of same-sex marriage. The list of names, which is now at more than 100 people, includes former presidential candidates like Jon Huntsman Jr., Beth Myers, former Romney advisor Meg Whitman. She ran to become the governor of California. Steve Schmidt, he was a McCain advisor. Stephen J. Hadley, former Bush advisor. So what is this going to do to the Republican Party, especially considering many of its current top leaders are strongly against gay marriage? Joining us now from Washington is Gregory Angelo. He's interim executive director of the Log Cabin Republicans, a group that tries and has long tried to moderate the party's stance on gay rights. Gregory, what's this going to do to your party?
Well, what you're seeing right now is a change that's happening within the Republican Party. I mean, what is this specific amicus brief and all the individuals who signed on to it going to do? I think it's going to continue to propel the message forward that there is a debate that's happening internally right now within the Republican Party about this issue. And you have more and more Republicans, not just fringe members of the party, but people who are prominent Republicans who are very publicly and very strongly stating their support of the freedom to marry for gay and lesbian couples.
There are some folks out there, Gregory, who say this is, indicative of a larger civil war that's going on in the Republican Party, particularly after Mitt Romney's defeat in November, but even before that, when McCain was defeated in 2008. What do you think? Is that language too torqued up?
Well, a civil war. Certainly, there is a debate that's been going on with within the Republican Party for a number of years, going back nearly a decade, actually, when Massachusetts became the first state in the country to recognize same-sex marriages, civil marriages between its citizens. Over the course of the last 10 years, you've had more and more Republicans that have started coming on board with the idea, getting comfortable with the idea of recognizing marriages between committed gay and lesbian couples. There's obviously a faction in the Republican Party that is not supportive of that. These social conservatives that 10 years ago said that the sky was going to come crashing down Chicken Little style if we started recognizing same-sex marriages. But over the course of the last decade, that has been proven simply to not be true. Since Massachusetts recognized civil marriages between same-sex couples, you've had 8 other states in the District of Columbia that now recognize those marriages, and you have Republicans in all of those states, voting Republicans in all of those states, and for that same matter, voting Republicans in states outside of those 9 and the District of Columbia who are also supportive of civil marriage. You have a younger demographic that is largely supportive, I should say overwhelmingly supportive of civil marriages for gay and lesbian couples. These are a younger demographic that identifies as conservative. So there is certainly perhaps not as strong as a civil war, but there's certainly a very intense debate that is happening in the Republican Party, and no one's walking in lockstep on this issue anymore.
Right. Now, here's the tricky part. I mean, the early field of presidential contenders for your party, 2016, are almost all against gay marriage. Chris Christie, Paul Ryan, Bobby Jindal. There are others out there as well who really are against this. Marco Rubio from Florida, for example. So how do you sort of square that circle?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, first of all, I will say that we're a long way off from 2016, but I certainly acknowledge the premise of your question that in this country it seems that the moment one presidential election ends, we're right back into another one. So I wouldn't say that we've narrowed the field just yet. Who knows who else is going to come in? There's a lot of really strong names who are supporters of civil marriage between gay and lesbian couples. However, you have someone like Chris Christie who's been somewhat nuanced in his position, where he says he's personally opposed to civil marriage for gay and lesbian couples, but he's willing to put it to the will of the voters. And that's something that he says knowing that there's an overwhelming majority, well over 60% of individuals in his state who would vote that into law if it became law. So, and even individuals like Bobby Jindal, Marco Rubio, this is not central to any campaign that they would have for the presidency. You don't see Republicans out there banging the drum on this issue. You certainly don't see any of them saying that this is going to be, say, the crown jewel of their campaign. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least if over the course of the next 4 years you find more and more Republicans evolving on this issue, high-profile Republicans who come out in support of the freedom to marry.
Yeah, I mean, there are moderates in your party who are saying, listen, this is a losing game for us. We need to move on. But tell me this, what happens to those sort of deeply religious conservative voters, in many cases the so-called base of your party, if they no longer feel comfortable within the Republican Party? If you move toward supporting gay marriage, then where do they go? Do they just not vote? Do they go somewhere else?
I mean, that remains to be seen. I mean, we're kind of entertaining hypotheticals here. However, I would argue that social conservatives should be looking at the bigger picture here, just as the rest of America is looking at the bigger picture here, and seeing that that all the doom and gloom that they have come to see, that they prophesied, has certainly not come to pass. One thing I would point out, and I try to be very nuanced in this argument, we're not looking for holy matrimony for gay and lesbian couples. We're not looking for any religious institution to perform a sacrament. We would certainly never seek that the government mandate that type of behavior take place. What we're looking for is civil marriages between gay and lesbian couples, and I truly feel that moving as we forge ahead, that will become much clearer to social conservatives, that there is a distinction between holy matrimony and civil marriage,
right,
and that Republicans respect religious liberty just as much as we respect the individual liberty that is involved with freedom of association and allowing committed gay and lesbian couples to enter into civil marriage partnerships.
Gregory Angelo with the Log Cabin Republicans in Washington today. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.